Phil, you were at a hearing at the House Budget Committee a couple of weeks ago, and one of the criticisms that you guys sort of missed the mark on this last year's budget deficit. The deficit in 2023 turned out to be much higher than people had expected. Obviously, part of the reason for the miss was that the administration had implemented like student loan changes that you guys didn't anticipate. And of course, there was some FDIC bank bailout. But sort of the focus was, you guys obviously didn't predict inflation and interest rates correctly. And I think one of the arguments that I sort of heard was, well, there are other people out there and they're doing a better job. And maybe we should use their numbers. I guess, so from CBO's perspective, are there any advantages or disadvantages to sort of producing your own forecast? I mean, couldn't you guys rely on, the Federal Reserve does certainly a short-term forecast, the blue chip economists, they do forecasts. There are other entities out there that could sort of be seen as nonpartisan, professional economists making predictions. And if you guys were to use their predictions instead of your own, you could at least say, well, we weren't any more wrong than anybody else because we're using their predictions. I mean, what's CBO's thought on sort of why not just use the blue chip or somebody like that?
Okay. No, very good. And I'll start by saying that transparency is a core value at CBO. And so if you look in our budget and economic outlook, there are sections that compare our forecast to others. And that's a comparison that I welcome and I want to keep doing. An important part of our forecast is that it's based on current law, right? And that is the baseline. Whereas other forecasters naturally will have a view about, well, what will happen in the future? And so, you can imagine there are many forecasters who, in some sense, if they want to think about, well, what will GDP be in 2026 or even in 2025, would have to have a view about what will happen to all the expiring tax provisions that Tori and I talked about. And that view will inevitably affect, someone's view of business investment, consumer spending, and GDP growth. And so that kind of policy view would then affect the economic forecast. And so it's just a different, in some sense, is a different thing that we're doing than what other forecasters are doing, which is totally appropriate, right? Other forecasters, it's totally appropriate for them to say, what is our view of what Congress will do and what the Fed will do, and put that into our forecast. And we're not trying to, front run the Congress. We're trying to say, here's the situation under current law. So that, in some sense, that's why I think it's important for CBO to do its own.